Hi, this is Magda from the Wnętrza channel. In this episode, I invite you to a home tour in an old style because I would like to show you an interesting solution. In the apartment where I'm staying, we start as usual at the entrance, and here on both sides we have closets, a mirrored one and a regular one in a large built-in unit. Look, this built-in goes along the entire wall. Here, the bedroom door might be blocking the view, but we'll fix that in a moment. Look, closets on both sides, a seat in the middle, and space for shoes underneath. What I feel is missing a bit are some hooks, which would be useful on the side or just high up in the back, because, you know, it's more convenient to quickly hang up a jacket. Although visually, jackets here might disrupt the look a bit, but shoes also disrupt the order here, so it's just something that's part of everyday life. And jackets inside, especially in such a dark space, would definitely be less noticeable than if they were over here, so I think that would be practical. But for now, there are hangers. The hangers are here, and next to them there's also space for a drying rack and an ironing board. However, this part is a utility closet, and you can see that other things fit in here. There's also a shelf for detergents, so the space is really nice. As for this mirrored wardrobe on this side, it actually hides the washing machine inside. Here we have the washing machine, and above it, shelves. So as you can see, these look like wardrobes in the hallway, but actually each of them also serves as a utility closet. Next to the mirrored wardrobe is the entrance to the bathroom, but we'll take a look inside later because right now the sun has come out a bit. It's a good opportunity to show you this interior in daylight. And it's not such a common opportunity because overall this is an apartment in a tenement house. There's a narrow tenement courtyard here. The windows, I don't know which direction they face, but overall very little light comes in, and it's generally a dark apartment. And here we have the living room with the kitchen, and the kitchen really deserves attention, although maybe at first glance you don't see how much it stands out. Maybe from the front someone will notice. Look at the oven and the cooktops. They're unusually narrow. These are appliances that are 45 cm wide, just like the dishwasher, which is also really slim. So it's a great solution for small kitchens. The only problem is that it's rather hard to find standard cabinets for an oven of this width. So this is more of a solution for custom-made kitchens. If not, let me know in the comments where you can buy ready-made 45 cm oven cabinets. Here we have a fridge, drawers, and oven, and under the oven, that's not a drawer, the front just tilts open, look, like this. So it's not super convenient, but it probably gives you a chance to use this space better. In the sense that there are no rails. And if there's not much space, or the bottom of the drawer, so if there's not much space, this way you can still use that space. If the drawer wouldn't fit anymore, here's the dishwasher, here's the cabinet for bins, although actually there was only one bin, so I added a bag for plastics. I strongly encourage you to sort your waste. And here, at the end, there are just shelves as well. Look up now. Here we have a protruding part of the wall, and above that is the ventilation. But what's important are these very decorative wall sconces, and you can see that if you look at them from the side, you can see the little bulbs. But thanks to the fact that they're placed in the corner of the room, from any normal angle while using this room, you actually won't see those little bulbs. Notice that they're tilted, so even though we're standing to the side of them now, the golden part still covers the little bulbs. And let's check how it looks. Oh, that's how it looks when it's lit up. Cool, right? The upper cabinets are also worth noting. Look, the wall above them is closer to us than at the bottom. Well, maybe you can't see it from this perspective, but here we have some depth, and up here there's just a little indentation. You'll see it best when I open the cabinet with the range hood. See, the pipe comes out and disappears. It disappears because it's built into the wall. And that's also a nice trick for using drywall to elegantly finish the kitchen cabinetry and hide the pipes. We don't have to do it, you know? Just build around the pipe itself. We can cover the whole space above the cabinets. Next to the kitchenette, there's a table with 3 chairs. See, the table has just one leg, so it's easy to move the chairs up from any side, and the chairs are the IKEA Odger model. If I remember correctly, I used to have dark navy ones, and then new colors appeared. And here they are red, which is beautiful in its own way. Because look, there was already red cabinetry in the hallway, a red seat, now there are red chairs here, and on the sofa, red pillows, so this red color keeps appearing throughout the apartment. And I feel like for many years there hasn't been much red in interiors, but clearly this apartment is prepared for short-term rental. Well, you can see that it's following the trends. Here we have this marble pattern on the countertop, above the countertop, here a dark green sofa, and then this red. So I think it's a color that has definitely come back into favor recently. Here behind the sofa we have slats, not in wood color but white, and it's some kind of variation for the wall, but here it also serves an additional function, which is to shield the open part from the bedroom. I don't really understand this solution because, well, honestly, it's nice to have the option to separate the bedroom from the living room enough so that the person going to sleep doesn't have light from the other room where someone is still awake. So this seems totally impractical to me, but maybe the idea was to let a bit more light into the room, because as I mentioned, it's generally rather dark here. In front of the sofa, instead of tables, there are poufs. One of them has a tray that serves as a table, and what I really like about these poufs is that they can be opened. Here there's actually nothing inside, but at home you can store things like television remotes or even books and magazines. You can really hide anything in a pouf like this, so you have it at hand but also tucked away, so poufs. One of my favorite pieces of furniture, I highly recommend it, and here under the television we have a little cabinet with rounded sides. And that's another thing, it's more proof of how this apartment follows contemporary trends. And I think it might be from Jysk, but I'm not sure. We'll see, maybe we can check if there's a tag here, but unfortunately I don't think we'll find out. Maybe inside. The sliding front, this one also moved a bit to the side. And I'm closing a very beautiful piece of furniture. Also, take a look at the curtains. There are a lot of them here. It's an element that's often underestimated in interiors. We buy some curtains on a small budget and hang them up at the end, not paying much attention to them. And curtains can really influence how we perceive the interior. Look at how large their surface area is. This affects our room a lot in terms of color, and it also creates a lot of coziness acoustically. And the fact that there are so many curtains here, that they wave so nicely, that's exactly the desired effect. And here they also cover the radiator, so in winter you can move them to the other side, and in the summer they might not look as nice. Alright, I'll straighten them out nicely later, but for now the radiator is clearly covered and it looks really nice. And I can wave to you in the mirror here. Good morning. The mirror is surrounded by molding. Is that the frame of the mirror? That's molding, so it's a custom-sized mirror simply framed in what I think is a styrofoam frame, but I didn't touch it closely enough to be sure. And now let me show you the bedroom, which simply has a bed. Interestingly, there are 2 outlets by the bed, but for some reason there are double ones at the bottom and single ones at the top. I've never seen an outlet combination like this before. What's more, I usually see this arrangement as top and bottom, not side by side, so it looks really original. But 3 outlets are definitely practical. Nevertheless, pay attention to this, because it's often a problematic issue when working with teams that install outlets for us. It's not always obvious whether you mean a single with 2 or a double with singles. Of course, you can also do a double with 2. And then there will be 4 plugs, or like here, 3, but usually you use either these or those. This situation here is rather an exception. So be careful when talking to the crews, because I've seen in renovation groups that this is a common problem, simply because it's easy not to discuss it. And here next to us in the alcove, we have this red built-in, like the chairs, like the cushions, like the alcove in the hallway. The red color repeats itself here. I'll walk around the bed so I can show it to you nicely. There are shelves on top, drawers at the bottom. The space is used really well here. On the other side, there's a little table by the bed, but on this side there isn't one because the drawers wouldn't be able to open. But above the drawers, there's a little shelf. You can reach it from the bed, so it works well. Also, look, there are pleated blinds on the window. You can pull them up, you can uncover them from the bottom, but the key thing here is that you can cover just the bottom part. This is a townhouse in the old town, so there's just a cafe garden down there. And to keep full privacy in the bedroom, you can elegantly separate yourself like this. And now, let me show you the bathroom. Let's turn on the main light first. Look, here we have 3 spotlights, and I'll also turn on the light above the shower. And look at these switches. First of all, notice that they're silver, so they look really cool and unique, but the bottom one turns on downward and the top one upward. So I get that some people prefer one way and others the other, but I just don't understand why one goes one way and the other the opposite. It's totally unintuitive. And it's not even a stairway switch, because then I would understand that you just need to flip it somewhere else. But in the bathroom there's another switch, but it's for the lamp above the mirror, this one here. Now let's take a closer look at the details. First, the floor. Notice that it's the same as in the rest of the apartment, so it's probably vinyl panels. Here we have a sink with a white faucet, which is quite unusual. Black or chrome ones are more common, but white is definitely rarer. And here underneath we have a little shelf under the sink made of tiles. There's a tile on top, a tile on the bottom, and grout here. However, these corner grouts can be quite delicate. Look, here they've already started to crumble. I'm wondering if silicone wouldn't work better in this spot, just like it is here on the edges. Or maybe the silicone could be in the color of the grout, so it might look okay. And maybe, thanks to its flexibility, it would be more durable. I don't know. If you have experience, let me know in the comments. And now we're coming back to the drawer, because here's a drawer, and it's a bit low at the bottom. I have to squat down a bit to reach it, so it would be more convenient if it were higher, but it's better to have this kind of drawer than none at all. And here we have Lastrico tiles, gray ones, very subtle and beautiful, and here the tiles are, well, convex. Maybe that's not the right word, but they're kind of 3-dimensional, so I feel like these kinds of 3-dimensional tiles are really trendy right now and are getting more attention lately, and they really do look very interesting and nice. These, on the other hand, seem a bit less durable, and I don't know if that's because of their shape or if there were some issues during installation, but as you can see, there are actually some cracks here. Well, let's hope that this is just an individual issue here and not a general rule for these tiles. But if you've come across them, I'd also love to hear your opinions and experiences. Was it better for you and nothing happened? Here, I'd also like to draw your attention to the silicone. You can see that applying silicone to tiles that are so uneven is definitely not one of the easiest tasks. Similarly, under the shower there, you can see that the worker had to put in quite a bit of effort with all those bends to apply the silicone nicely, but in my opinion, it turned out really well. And here in the shower, we also have a white faucet. Here's the shower head, and up top, the rain shower and lights. I love having lights above the shower, and as you can see, without them, it would be much darker in there. Watch, I'm turning off the light. See the difference? And now I'm turning it back on. It's a completely different comfort when showering. Totally. I think there's no doubt that it's nice to have lights above the shower, but of course it's better to choose the right lamps that are resistant to splashing. That's the IP rating, which is worth checking when choosing lamps for the bathroom. Well, obviously the one above the sink, the chance of water splashing there is really low. Something unusual would have to happen for that. Something really unusual, so you don't have to be that careful here. But for the wet zone above the shower, it's definitely worth paying more attention. Before we leave, let me show you this radiator here. It might not be anything special by itself, but it has hooks. And that's a really convenient solution because towels on the radiator can dry faster, and it's also easier to hang them back up. Of course, you can just drape them over here, lay them out flat, but then you can't fit as many, it's harder to reach them, and you can't take them off as easily and quickly as when they're on a hook. So it's worth having this kind of solution too, because it's very practical. And finally, I'd like to go back for a moment to the oven and the induction cooktop, because as you can see, there are 3 burners here, which is a compromise between a large 4-burner cooktop when. Well, hardly anyone really uses all 4 burners, but still, 3 is more than 2 burners, which many people worry might not be enough. Well, I feel that 2 is enough for most people, but honestly, 3 is already very safe. And here we have the brand. It's my first time encountering it, I'll be honest with you, and I'm really impressed by this solution. 3 burners, 45 centimeters wide, a narrow oven, and up here there's also a hood in this size, so it's a really nicely matched set. And honestly, I hope that there will be more and more household appliances in exactly this size, 45 centimeters wide, because let's be honest, very few people cook so much that they need 4 burners and a gigantic oven. That's all for this episode. Let me know in the comments how you liked it and if you actually saw the solutions I wanted to show you, because obviously with a standard lens it's not as easy as with a wide-angle one. The interiors are small though, and sometimes there's not even anywhere to step back, so in a way it's a bit more difficult. On the other hand, recordings that I can do by myself when I'm filming handheld are definitely faster. And basically, if I could perfect this technique, it would be a nice direction that could simply make it possible to have more videos on the channel. That's why I'm really curious about your impressions. I hope you'll share them under the video, in the comments, leave a thumbs up, be sure to subscribe, and check out our previous videos on the channel, because hardly any video has as many views as there are subscribers, or as many as the viewers who watch our channel. And that means that the vast majority of you have simply missed a lot of interesting episodes. Check if you're not in that group, because in other home tours you can also find plenty of interesting ideas. And it's definitely better to prepare well for arranging your home, because obviously you don't renovate your house every year. It's a job you do once and then enjoy for many years, so it's worth doing it properly. That's why I encourage you to carefully browse our channel and also check out our store at Wnętrza Zewnętrzne. PL, where we have plenty of interior design books. And as you probably already know, very few bookstores have such a category in their store. Often, books about apartment design are simply thrown into the self-help section along with diets and gardening. And it's hard to find interesting titles. With us, you have a complete overview, so definitely check out the titles you don't know yet. I try to prepare book descriptions in such a way that you can really check if it's a book for you. The link to the store is in the video description. And now I'm really saying goodbye to you. See you next time. Bye.